Sometime this week, a scam is going to land in your pocket. A fake delivery text, an email from a bank you don't use. And you're going to delete it in half a second and feel a tiny flicker of something. Superiority. Who falls for this stuff? That flicker is the most dangerous thing you own. Because the data on who actually loses money to scams is the opposite of what you think. And the people getting destroyed aren't who you picture. They're people with degrees, people with good jobs, people like you. In fact, one of the worst scam losses I've ever read about happened to a man who had just finished writing an entire book about gullibility. A world expert on why people get fooled. He lost a fortune 2 days after his book came out. I'll tell you exactly how in a few minutes because his story explains everything. But first, let's destroy the myth. Ask anyone to picture a scam victim, and they'll describe the same person. Elderly, lonely, not great with technology. Somebody's sweet grandmother wiring money to a stranger. Now here's what the actual numbers say. The Federal Trade Commission collects millions of fraud reports every year. And year after year, the same pattern shows up. People in their 20s and 30s report losing money to scams more often than people over 70. Not slightly more often. In some years, more than twice as often. The younger, more educated, more online you are, the more often you get hit. Older victims lose bigger amounts when they do fall because they have more to take. But the raw likelihood of being fooled? That belongs to the generation that grew up with the internet and thinks it can't be fooled. Sit with that for a second. The group most confident it can spot a scam is the group losing money most often. Why? The answer starts with a simple question. It's 2 sentences long, and it was designed by a professor at MIT named Shane Frederick. Here it is. A bat and a ball cost $1.10 together. The bat costs $1 more than the ball. How much does the ball cost? Your brain just gave you an answer. Instantly. 10 cents? It's wrong. If the ball cost 10 cents, the bat would cost $1.10, and together they'd be $1.20. The real answer is 5 cents. The ball is 5. The bat is $1.05. Together that's $1.10. Now here's the part that matters. When Frederick gave this test to students at elite universities, MIT, Harvard, Princeton, huge numbers of them got it wrong. Some of the smartest young people on the planet. Because the question isn't testing whether you're smart, it's testing whether you check the first answer your brain hands you. And smart brains hand out answers fast. Think of intelligence like a fast car. Speed is wonderful when you're pointed in the right direction. But a fast car pointed the wrong way doesn't save you. It just gets you to the wrong place quicker with more confidence and less time to notice the signs flying past the window. That's what a scam does. It points your fast brain in the wrong direction, then lets your own horsepower do the rest. But speed is only the first problem. The second one is worse. In 2012, a psychologist named Keith Stanovich published research on something called the bias blind spot. That's the well-documented fact that people can spot flawed thinking in others far more easily than in themselves. Stanovich and his colleagues wanted to know, does being smarter shrink that blind spot? It didn't. If anything, the more cognitively sophisticated people were, the slightly bigger their blind spot got. Read that again. Intelligence didn't just fail to protect people from self-deception. It gave them better tools to explain their mistakes away. Because that's the thing nobody tells you about a smart brain. It's not just good at finding truth. It's phenomenal at building justifications. A smart person who's being scammed doesn't just fall for the story, they improve it. They fill the holes themselves. The scammer gives them a sketch, and their intelligence paints in the details that make it believable. The victim becomes a co-author of the lie. Have you ever done that? Wanted something to be true and felt your own mind quietly rounding the red flags down to orange, then yellow, then nothing? Which brings us back to the man who wrote the book. His name is Stephen Greenspan. Psychologist? Professor. In late 2008, he published a book called Annals of Gullibility, a serious academic study of why humans get duped, how to recognize manipulation, how to protect yourself. He had spent years on it. He was on paper the most scam-proof man in America. 2 days after the book was published, Bernie Madoff was arrested, and Greenspan discovered that roughly a third of his retirement savings had been sitting inside Madoff's Ponzi scheme, the largest financial fraud in history. The expert on gullibility, fooled by the biggest con of the century, in the same week his book hit shelves. To his enormous credit, Greenspan didn't hide. He wrote publicly about how it happened. And his explanation is the key to this whole video. He didn't get a phone call from a stranger. He got a recommendation from people he trusted, smart, successful people who were already invested. The fund was exclusive, hard to get into. It had been running for decades. Sophisticated investors, banks, celebrities were all inside. Every signal that intelligent people use to evaluate an opportunity was flashing green. That was the trap. Madoff didn't build a scam that fooled stupid people. He built a scam out of the exact materials smart people use to feel safe: reputation, exclusivity, social proof, track record. He weaponized due diligence itself. Because here's what scammers understand that victims don't. Intelligence runs on trust shortcuts. No one, not you, not a Nobel laureate, verifies everything from scratch. You trust credentials. You trust institutions. You trust the judgment of impressive people around you. You have to. It's how a complex world stays livable. A good scam doesn't attack your logic. It presents forged credentials to your trust system, gets waved through the front door, and never faces your logic at all. It's like a nightclub bouncer who carefully checks everyone in torn jeans, but waves through anybody in an expensive suit. Your skepticism is the bouncer. The scam shows up in a suit, and there's one more layer, the deepest one. In 2015, researchers at Cornell ran a study on self-described experts. They asked people to rate their knowledge of finance, then showed them a list of financial terms and asked which ones they recognized. Hidden in the list were terms that don't exist, completely made up. The people who rated themselves most knowledgeable were the most likely to claim they recognized the fake terms. The researchers called it overclaiming. The feeling of expertise had detached from actual knowledge, and the feeling did the talking. That's the flicker from the beginning of this video. Who falls for this stuff? That feeling isn't protection. In the data, that feeling is a marker of risk. Fraud researchers find it constantly. The people who insist they could never be scammed take fewer precautions, engage longer with suspicious contacts, and are less likely to report it when it happens, because reporting means admitting. An immune system that's convinced it can't get sick stops checking for infections. I'll be honest with you about something. While writing this script, I went back through my own inbox, feeling pretty good about myself, and I found an email from 2 years ago, a collaboration offer I'd replied to. Twice. I'd asked follow-up questions. It had every marker I've just described to you: flattery, exclusivity, a professional-looking website I now realize was 3 weeks old. The only reason I didn't lose anything is that they wanted a payment method I didn't have. Not wisdom? Luck. My fast car was already moving, the road just happened to end. So what actually protects you? Because it isn't intelligence, and by now that should be obvious. Every real defense comes down to one question. The question scammers pray you never ask. Not, does this make sense? Your brain will say yes, it helped write the story. Not, do I trust this person? Trust is exactly what's been forged. The question is, what would this look like if it were a scam? That question does something strange to your brain. It flips you from defense attorney to prosecutor. Instead of explaining evidence away, you start hunting for it. The urgency suddenly looks manufactured. The exclusivity looks like isolation. The impressive backers look unverified. Same facts, different direction. Remember, the car was never the problem. The direction was. Frederick's bat and ball question and the Madoff catastrophe are the same event at different sizes. In both, the first answer felt right, arrived fast, and was wrong. The people who escaped weren't smarter. They were the ones who paused and checked the answer their brain handed them. So, sometime this week, that scam is going to land in your pocket. You'll delete it in half a second. And you'll feel the flicker. Feel it. Then remember what it is. Because the scam that gets you won't look like that one. It will look like an opportunity. arriving through someone you trust, making perfect sense, flattering exactly the kind of person you believe you are. It won't get past your intelligence. It will be carried in by it.